Welcome to another edition of the Injury Prevention Academy, brought to you by Dorn Companies. For over 20 years, Dorn has been the nation's leading wellness-based pain management and injury prevention company. Through our customized ergonomic education, training, and tech solutions, Dorn has helped nearly 120,000 employees over that time. With an annual ROI of nearly 600%, we have saved employers over $100 million in workers' comp and healthcare costs. I'll be your host, Cheryl Roy, and we will be diving into the various facets of all things safety in the working environment. Thank you again for joining us for another Injury Prevention Academy. I'm your host, Cheryl, and with me today is Mr. Matt Weber of Cardinus. So since 1995, Cardinus has been at the forefront of developing innovative ergonomics, safety, and compliance risk management solutions, safeguarding lives and assets while reducing the costs for global clients. Their cutting-edge technology fosters behavioral change, identifies and mitigates risks, and streamlines organizational processes efficiently. Welcome, Mr. Matt. How are you today?
Thank you, Cheryl. Doing well. Appreciate it. Excited
Happy
for
fall.
today. Yes, thank you. Yes. And in Texas, it's finally the weather. You can be outside for more than 5 minutes without just dripping in sweat.
Ooh, don't envy that. All right, so we're just gonna jump right into things. So regulations in general, when it comes to ergonomics, tend to vary globally. Like the UK, for example, has a mandatory ergonomics that it's actually regulated. The US is considered discretionary. How do you see that you can bridge that difference?
Yeah, absolutely. We kind of meet the companies where they are. And like you said, there's a difference in global ergonomics, and really the regulations can be challenging to navigate. So like you said, for example, in the UK, it's mandatory to ensure that really the well-being of their employees in the workplace. While in the US, it's more discretionary unless it's tied to, those specific regulations like OSHA. So
Right.
this means really like a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. But at Cardinus, we bridge that gap by really tailoring our solutions to each of the region's regulatory needs. And we create a fantastic global regulatory guide that outlines each country's specific laws, and then where really regulations are lighter. We emphasize those best practices to proactively reduce risk. And if anybody listening to this wants those global regulatory guides, we're happy to send those out.
Well, we'll definitely throw a little blurb at the bottom of this, at the end of this, of how to get a hold of Matt and Cardinus and any questions that you guys might have. So
Fantastic.
with that said, so Cardinus offers the ability to maintain cultural sensitivity, native languages, etc., based on what country you happen to be in. So how do you increase outcomes and info like digestibility for people?
Of course, absolutely. So one of the key ways that we really increase those outcomes and the engagement, that's what we're looking for, really the engagement, is by ensuring that our ergonomics programs are really culturally sensitive and delivered in the native language of each country. So our healthy working platform, actually, we're up to 25 different languages that we can provide it in, because really ergonomics, a lot of it, yes, is about physical posture, but it's not everything. It's also about really communication and really, if the program isn't presented in the way that resonates with that local culture or is difficult to understand due to language barriers, it won't be effective. We recently had a client where we had kind of our healthy working program outlined, and we worked with the leadership there. And one of the questions that we asked while they're setting up their profile is, do you work with a chair or are you wheelchair bound? Okay. And like 30, 40, 50% of their employees said yes. And we're like, that's an astronomical number. What's going on?
It is. I was just going to say.
Right. The way that they interpreted it in the language was a chair that has wheels.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So not a wheelchair. So we, of course, had to adjust and really, ensure that the way that we were utilizing our healthy working platform was in that native language to those employees, because they weren't really understanding what we were asking. And so really, we want to ensure that the content is relative and culturally appropriate.
I actually have a friend who learned English through MTV, and we were on a walk one day, and we passed up a baseball field, and she goes, "Oh, look, it's a baseball court." And I was like, Yeah. So that's actually really interesting. How would you define industrial ergonomics? And then how does that definition change from country to country?
Yeah, absolutely. So industrial ergonomics is really about optimizing the interaction between workers and their physical work environment, typically really in a physically demanding or repetitive job. So this definition doesn't really change globally, but how it's applied can vary. So in some countries, the focus may be on reducing the repetitive strain injuries in
Mhm.
manufacturing environments, while in others, it could be more about ensuring workers are safe, providing safe lifting techniques or proper tools. And so again, kind of at Cardinus, we're going to adapt our industrial ergonomics programs to ensure the unique needs of each country. So for instance, in regions where heavy manufacturing is dominated, we're going to focus more on reducing the physical exertion, while in office dominated sectors, we're of course going to be focusing on those workstation setups. So our goal is to provide a solution that meets the specific risk profile of the country, of the employee's environment, while staying true to, of course, the core principles of ergonomics.
So regarding manufacturing in general, where it's more boots on the ground type of thing, and that's, global as well. How do you see technology meets boots on the ground these days, since tech is all the rage?
Absolutely. We just got back from a conference, and tech was everywhere at that conference. So
Oh,
absolutely,
easily.
tech is everywhere. And really how I visualize kind of the solutions that we provide with Cardis as well as with our partners, kind of with Dorn as well. I
Hmm.
really break it out into two different sectors, really the office ergonomics and the industrial ergonomics. So in the office ergonomics, healthy working, if you think of technology within our program, our solution, it integrates advanced tech to assess workstation setups,
Right.
posture, and screen ergonomics in real time based upon the profile of the individuals. And it's completely customizable. We want to make sure that again, we are providing the companies and their employees something that's going to be useful to them. So absolutely fully customizable. And it's really a data-driven approach that identifies risks for office workers that can then be refined with personalized expert feedback, virtual assessments and things like that. So that's kind of the office ergonomics and kind of like our healthy working platform. Now, with an industrial ergonomics, technology really meets boots on the ground, really when you can utilize kind of motion capture technology,
Right.
where they can remotely access complex physical tasks in industrial environments. We'd like to utilize a company called 3Motion AI, and really their tool is amazing. It can give you risk scores connected to Reba, Rula, and things like that very, very quickly. But it is only kind of the data behind it. Then the boots on the ground, the Dorns of the world are absolutely necessary to then be able to implement those from the assessment, kind of all the tools and all the things that you find from the great motion capture technology. You need the boots on the ground to then implement it, and not just implement it, but then reinforce it and ensure that kind of everything works well. Because just because the technology says, all right, this is horrible, well, maybe it's the work environment that needs a change, or maybe it's that employee, or maybe that employee does have some limited mobility that the technology just can't capture. So the boots on the ground, in addition to the motion capture and technology, is kind of that 1-2 punch that everybody, I think, really needs.
So that's what I always find interesting at the conferences is you've got a new piece of tech, and that's always going to be something bigger and better and shinier. I mean, no doubt that's always going to change, but I feel like having the full menu of being proactive in these environments where it's not just the tech, it's not just hands-on, it's not just the ergonomic. Maybe it is at the end of the day something with the workstation that needs to be reevaluated or reassessed because at Dorn we've perhaps fixed everything there was to fix when it comes to RSIs or anything like that. And then boom, it's maybe just changing the workstation a little bit. So I think having the all-encompassing components of this is definitely where everything is leaning in. So,
Absolutely. Yep.
so Cardinus Inception started out as Office Ergo, and obviously that has evolved. Why the strategic change for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say necessarily a change. We're still strongly focused on what's made us so successful for
Mhm.
25 years. And I mean, we completed 5 million assessments just last year alone. So, we're enhancing that is kind of what we're saying. So we're still strongly focused on healthy working and really that foundation. We have some huge, Fortune 50 companies that we still work very, very closely with, and we've worked with for 10, 15, 20 years. We like to say we like to grow old with our partners and our other clients. And so definitely not a change, as more as kind of like I like to say like an evolution, because we've been focusing on a lot of the office ergonomic piece and those employees, but there's also a need in the industrial space as well. And so a lot of our clients have asked us, all right, you guys are fantastic in office ergonomics. How else can you support us? And so that's why we're evolving to not just focus on the office employees, but also those in the industrial setting. And so being able to offer our customers solution like boots on the ground support through Dorn, like the motion capture through three motion AI. We want to really be that easy button to all things ergonomics. And I'm hopeful that we're going to be talking about the Global Ergo Alliance here a little bit later, but very
Way
excited
to blow
to kind of put
that.
that
That was my
together.
big sneaky ending. Get back to that
Yes.
later.
Yep. Well, let's leave that as kind of like a teaser so that people
Okay,
listen to the
perfect.
whole thing. Does that work?
Absolutely. So there's your teaser, everybody. So basically, any conference you go to these days, 70% of it, at least, maybe more, is going to be some sort of AI and tech and how that affects the industry. As a company, how do you see how management, workers, office workers, how are they receiving the tech? Is it positive? What kind of impact is that making when they're learning about new ways to be healthier in a wellness situation?
Absolutely. I think, new technology, like you mentioned earlier, it's going to be introduced always. There's always going to be a
Always, yeah.
shiny or fancy or whatever tool. And that's been going on for multiple decades. Obviously, AI is a huge focus more recently. So I think being mindful of the outcomes that you're trying to achieve for your employees, your organization really should be your focus. And then integrating the solutions into those is really the most important thing. So data is great, but having actionable items for the data to then improve lives and really the jobs of your employees should be the most important. And really, that's going to reduce those injuries, decrease costs, while having the most positive impact on employee morale, reduction in turnover, and things like that. So
Right.
again, all these great tools are coming at you, but take a breath and like understand and try to realize what's going to be the most impactful for your organization and implement that, because you're not going to be able to implement all these new tools, but just what makes sense for your organization and your people.
Absolutely. So, since the pandemic, which is always seems to be a hot topic, ergonomics receives significant attention just across the world. The pandemic took over everything, particularly with the increase of remote workers, remote ergo assessments. What do you see in the field of ergonomics heading in the next few years now that what the emerging trends are? Since you've got hybrids, you've got at-home workers, you've got, less people obviously at work because they can do a combo of the both. Of the two.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen, and you've seen it, I think everybody's seen it, a lot more of this return to the office mindset, but employees are pushing back. So they're leaving organizations that are forcing that. But so I think the organizations again have to understand what makes the most sense for them and their people. Our office ergonomic solution, Healthy Working, the world's most widely used program, again, 5 million assessments last year. We've evolved that to now just not focusing on really the office ergonomics, but we encompass now office, especially within the US. And again, globally, culturally, there's all sorts of differences. Some countries, if you drive to work or if you are a salesperson that's always driving around, your office is actually considered your car. And so your office ergonomic solution, our Healthy Working platform, then creates the training and modules and e-learning and risk profiles for those that work in their car. So you really have to adjust, again, compared to what your company needs and wants and desires. And so definitely an evolution since COVID-19, much more hybrid working. And so we've had to adjust kind of what we do within Healthy Working to then have more options for where people work to then provide them the e-learning and the education and the risk profiles.
So everybody needs to stay flexible because no one knows what's coming down the pipeline in 3, 5, 10 years. You never know.
Yep, absolutely.
So, in your experience, what are some of the common challenges that management faces when trying to implement ergonomic programs? How do they overcome any kind of obstacles they might have?
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, with anything that you're implementing new or evolving, you're going to have those that say, "Hey, this has worked fine in years past. Why are we changing it? Or, do we have a budget constraint? So there's a lot of different challenges. It depends again. The one size fits all approach does not work in this line of field. So a few of the challenges, like I mentioned, there's often a lack of budget, which can limit what solutions are implemented.
Right.
There can be a lack of awareness or buy-in from employees or leadership, especially when the benefits aren't immediately visible. And when you're talking about musculoskeletal injuries and sorenesses, those accumulate over time. So leadership, they should be thinking proactively instead of like, okay, today, where is it at? But okay, how can we prevent it from, increasing in the future? Logistics is another challenge that some companies have as a challenge, like ensuring there's consistent practices across multiple locations, or again, hybrid work environments like we also discussed. That can be tricky. So as you can imagine, the more locations, the trickier it gets. If you're talking about global regulations, that becomes challenging. So again, at Cardinus, we want to make sure that there is consistency across the board, even though those regulations are going to change from country to country and even the US. California does things quite a bit differently than other parts of even within the US. And so Cardinus's mindset and focus on knowing those has really benefited a lot of our companies.
So when it comes to the hybrid component of things in the work environments and how these practices and assessments are done, obviously that had to change as well. So strategies need to be a little bit more effective at addressing these changes. Again, I think it's the flexibility component that we were talking about. It can't just be employees being flexible on how they're receiving information, but management as well. You got to be a little flexible on how things come across. So what are your thoughts on basically meeting employees where they're at and getting the point across that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So the shift to remote, hybrid, the mixture, the return to the office, it's really fundamentally changed how we approach ergonomics. And really many employees are working from home setups that might not be ergonomically sound. Now, I will say in the last couple of years, there has been a little bit more of a focus on, all right, let's help those home employees, but they're still not out of the woods. And each company treats their at-home or hybrid employees differently. And so really this is leading to more issues like the musculoskeletal disorders.
Sure.
And really the shift has pushed some companies, they've had to adopt more flexible, remote-friendly ergonomic solutions. And I truly do see kind of an uptick in the data and our data within the Healthy Working platform, all those assessments that we've done, the millions that we've done, really, we're starting to see a little bit more and more, soreness from those office employees, because maybe 2-3 years ago, COVID was definitely ripping and roaring, but they weren't really having those sorenesses because musculoskeletal soreness and injuries, they take time to accumulate. So they may not have been sore 2, 3, 4 years ago, but working at home in maybe non-ergonomically sound environments, over time, you're slowly breaking down. And so it's not that one time you're picking up your pen that you dropped on the floor that blew out your back. It's the months and years of you maybe working incorrectly. And so we are starting to see this incline of musculoskeletal related sorenesses and injuries, because again, people have been working from home and sometimes makeshift offices, and their bodies are just giving out.
Dorn is 100% remote. And so again, being in this industry, are you having this conference call on your couch where you're sitting all kind of lounged over? Are you doing it from your car? No one knows what your chairs look like. So in the spirit of remote being wonderful, it's also, is it?
Right. Well, and
to manage all of that.
Absolutely. Well, and the good thing kind of, again, at Cardinus and our Healthy Working, we're offering the e-learning, virtual assessments, and other tools that allow the employees to self-assess at their workplaces and workspaces. Right. So, and the assessments can then be followed up by the expert guidance. So if someone is working on the couch, for example, okay, maybe that's their office setup. Not ideal, but let's give them the tools to make sure they're working on the couch as comfortable and as ergonomically sound as possible. And so really that's where we're providing that support in this, new working environment and settings.
So nice buzzwords around the world these days is ergonomics is often said to be good economics. So the National Safety Council reports that MSDs cause 30% of unwanted days away from work, which costs employers about $20 billion annually. Can you elaborate a little bit on how the economic benefit of implementing just effective ergonomics programs is where people need to be?
Yeah, that 30%, you always hear different percentages and stuff like
Sure.
that. That's actually kind of low for what I've experienced. I've been kind of in the industry for about 10 years. I would venture to guess that that number is actually even higher than that, but maybe it's just reported as 30%. So absolutely, ergonomics is truly good economics. And really companies that invest in ergonomics see those tangible returns not just in the employee well-being, but also in cost savings. So, for example, like musculoskeletal disorders, those are one of the leading causes of lost work days. Each incident can cost a company thousands in lost productivity, medical expenses, and so really you need to think about not just days off of work, but morale, and things like that.
Right.
Really trickle down from if you don't have good ergonomics in place, and so by implementing really effective ergonomic programs, companies are really going to reduce workplace injuries, lower absenteeism, improve productivity. And so, really for every dollar spent on ergonomic interventions, it's shown that companies will save up to 3-4 times as much in the overall injury related costs.
So, with that said, I feel like the definition of wellness and ergonomics has changed a lot over the years. There's a growing recognition of the link between, ergonomics and mental health. Poor ergonomic practices can lead to, pain and discomfort and stress, which in turn can cause, affect your mental well-being. So, how are ergonomics and mental health connected, in your opinion? And what's the impact of having obviously good ergo practices with an employee's mental well-being? The whole check your
Absolutely.
emotions at the door when it's 9 o'clock in the morning and then get back to it, and 8, 9 hours later is antiquated at best.
Absolutely, yes, and there absolutely is that link. Really poor ergonomic practices can cause physical discomfort, pain, and fatigue, which then turns really into stress, frustration for the employees, lack of sleep, things like that. Absolutely, what's going on at work affects yourself outside of the work. You don't have a punch card where you're all right. You're punching into work for these
Mhm.
hours, and then that's your body, your work body, and then you leave work and you can say, all right, now I'm going to be my home body. Really, it does overlap quite a bit,
Oh,
and really,
always.
yeah, and it contributes to burnout, mental health issues, anxiety, depression at times. So really good ergonomic practices help reduce the physical discomfort which then naturally leads to less stress. So when employees feel physically comfortable and really supported, they're going to be more, productive, focused, and really generally happier at work. And again, at Cardinus, we really emphasize that holistic approach to ergonomics, again, in the office and now the industrial setting,
Hmm.
recognizing that a well-designed workplace doesn't just prevent that physical injury, but it's also improving that mental well-being as well.
But I also feel that the stigmatic associations with mental health, again, historically was a very negative one. And this day and age, I believe, should be a blanketed statement for everybody that mental health is a part of all of this. You're not broken, you're not mentally ill. Everyone just has stressors in their life. And again, it's hard to check those at the door. So having wellness programs that encompass everything is the way to
Absolutely.
go. So we did tip upon a little bit of a rumor from the peanut gallery around that there is an Ergo Alliance launching in 2025. Is there any insider info or tidbits that you can provide us?
I can release some of the tidbits. So yeah, we've had kind of a little bit of a soft launch. Talk to some potential clients, some current clients on a few of our partners. But yeah, there's a few companies that are partnering together behind the scenes to again be that easy button. We're going to call it the Global Ergo Alliance, and it's really an innovative partnership created to really unify and raise the standards of ergonomic support across various regions and industries, both within the US and globally. We've really brought together experts like ergonomists, health professionals, technology innovators. So our Global Ergo Alliance is committed to addressing really that broad spectrum of ergonomic needs. And this is a collaboration with a few companies, really equipping their current clients and hopefully future clients with access to really that cutting edge ergonomic resource tailored resources, country-specific guidance, providing that adaptable solution for, again, both the office and industrial setting. And so the framework is designed to ensure ergonomic solutions that are globally adaptable yet locally relevant. And so, for example, kind of the office-based ergonomic needs are met through resources like Cardinus's Healthy Working Program, a comprehensive assessment and adjustment platform that promotes those healthier workspaces. And then, in the industrial ergonomics, we're supported by, the boots on the ground or virtual support through, Dorn. And then we have, motion capture technology through 3Motion AI. So really we're encompassing this holistic approach, being that easy button. We're all kind of staying in our lanes of expertise, but combining kind of in the background to ensure that our clients can get all sorts of, innovative best practice solutions for what they're needing. And then you can say, all right, I do want office ergonomics. I do want boots on the ground. I do want, that motion capture, and combining it all together. All these companies, we're staying in our lane, but we're really partnering together behind the scenes to make it very, very easy for those organizations, not just within the US, but also globally, to be able to say, all right, hey, what do you have out there? And you don't have to work with 2, 3, 4 different companies. We're really bringing it all together so that it is
one-stop shop,
one platform.
Yeah. So, and there's your tagline is globally accessible and locally relevant. I think I like that a lot. So that is very exciting. So I can't wait to kind of touch back in with you in 2025 to kind of hear how that's panning out and unfolding. That's going to be exciting. So I'm going to end this with thanking you, Matt, for joining us today. If our listeners want to get a hold of you regarding questions they might have, how would they do so?
Yep, they can email me, Matt, M-A-T-T, period, Weber with 1B, at cardinus.com. You can call me on my cell phone, 502-741-2729. You can go to our website, cardinus.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, very, very accessible.
Excellent. Again, thank you all for joining us today, and have yourself a wonderful day.
Thank you, Cheryl.